go terribly wrong, and no one will show up. But yeah, there's people there. Yes. All right. Lighting might not be great, but we're good. There you go. Yes, everyone, what's going on? Happy Monday. Hope everyone is well. I said I'll come on and do a little live and just talk about the day that's in it. Celebrating 1 year sober today, 27th of December, 27th of September. This time last year, it was the first day of my new journey. So I'll get into that. What I'm going to do, right, is talk about how I think it started, how my addiction started. And then I'll take you through the years up until I suppose my first day of sobriety this time. And then I'll take you through my whole year being sober and everything like that. And then we'll do a little Q&A. So if you want to stay on until the end, it won't be longer than 20 minutes. I'm actually quite nervous, so won't I? I'm quite nervous. I wasn't too sure how to go about today. It's just another day, but for me personally, it's a big milestone. Corn snack, there you go. There you go, Eba. And corn snack, there's an old nickname for you. Alright, let me close this door, 2 secs. Alright. Yeah, we'll get straight into it. Okay, so for anyone that's just joining, what I'll do is I'll go through. Again, I'm repeating myself. I'll go through where I thought my addiction started over the years. Take you through what happened. Some of you might know my story already, but I have quite a lot of new followers within the last 6 months, and since moving to Manchester as well. So some of you might not actually know my story. So I'm 28 years old. When I was 21, I moved to Australia. I had a couple of brothers living in Australia at the time. And I suppose it was my first time living outside of Ireland for that long. So I suppose when you move to another country, I suppose you have more responsibilities, right? Got to get your own place, get a job. Now, fortunate enough for me, I had my brothers there, so I was pretty set up. But I was playing rugby over there. I was a painter. That was my job. I trade. And it was a new country, new surroundings, new friends, new groups, everything like that. And I didn't do any drugs before I moved to Australia at 21. I didn't do any drugs. I drank before. The first ever drug I did was, and for people here that might have lost someone to addiction, anything like that, a lot of what I'm going to say right now is just my story, right? It's how I talk, it's how I speak. None of it is telling war stories or anything like that. It's I'm not boasting about how much drugs I did, how long I did it for. This is just me telling my story, and the whole purpose of this is telling my story, and hopefully that will help someone who might be going through the same thing that I was going through. So just to clarify that. Back to the story. So I was living in Australia, and had a full-time job, so I had a bit of money and was always going out weekends, and it just started with drink, and then one thing led to another, and I was taking drugs on most weekends. Didn't really think anything of it. Choice of drug in Australia was MDMA, Molly you might call it, party drug, and took quite a lot of that. Started smoking a lot of weed. I nearly chopped off my finger painting a house. I don't know, you're thinking, how do you chop off your finger painting a house? But I was using a little grinder. And I remember I wasn't able to work for 2 weeks, and all I was doing was smoking weed. Like literally every day, smoke weed. Wake up in the morning, smoke. Go back inside, come down in the evening, smoke. And I remember I used to have a group of friends where I'd go over midweek and smoke weed with. So I'd go over to their house, smoke a few joints, and then I'd be driving home. Didn't think anything of it, and then I'd get up for work the next day. Now a lot of people might think, oh, weed doesn't do anything for you, but these were the patterns that started, right? So we'll go down. So that's 21. I moved to Australia, lived there for 2 years. But I remember coming home for Christmas a year later. I came home for about a month, and that was my first time doing. It was my first time doing cocaine. So I was at 21, nearly 22. And it was going around where I was from, everyone was doing it. And I remember just being like, wow, this is like totally different from a couple of years prior to that. So that was my first time taking cocaine, and just loved everything about it. And could I go out at the time? Could I go out without bringing drugs with me? I probably could have, but it was just because the buzz I was getting off it. Now the come down was just like so bad. But I was just that, okay, I was so addicted to it. And at the time I was looking after my health in a way. So I would party for weeks on end, party for a few months, and then I'd stop and I'd go to the gym, look after myself, get in shape. And once I get in shape, I'd go again. So that was me in Australia, basically. And don't get me wrong, I had a great time. I was with my brothers for a lot of it as well, but I was off doing my own thing, partying and stuff like that. So fast forward a year later, I decided to move back to Ireland. Now at this stage of my life, I didn't know what I was doing with myself. I was back painting. I think I was working with my dad at the time. And look, I love where I'm from, but I was always one to get up and go. I always had a travel bug. I wanted to see new countries, meet new people, etc., etc. And so I think I lasted 8 or 9 months at home, and I had a brother in New York. And decided to move to New York, September 2017 I think it was. And this isn't funny, but I say funny enough. At the time, right, I must look this up, but I'm pretty sure Wolf of Wall Street came out at that stage. Or Wolf of Wall Street came out in 2015 or 16. And for whatever reason it was, I loved movies that involved drugs. Whether it was Goodfellas, any movie like that involved drugs. And when Wolf of Wall Street came out, I was obsessed with it. I was just like, wow, this is like incredible. And I know movies just exaggerate like a lot of that stuff. It was based on true story, but a lot of that stuff like didn't really happen. But for me, when I was moving to New York, I just couldn't stop thinking about cocaine. I was like, I heard about how cheap it was. I heard about how easy it was to get. And literally, I'm not even joking you. I moved to New York on, just say if it was a Monday, I was in the bathrooms of a pub on the Tuesday or Wednesday taking coke. And so yeah, it was just mad. It was mad. And this is just the start of it. So, I was meeting tons of new people in New York. And, don't get me wrong, it was a great time. I was working construction Monday to Friday for a few months, earning absolutely no money. And all that money that I did earn and I did have was spent on the weekends on drink and drugs. So fast forward maybe 6 months. After 6 months living in New York, I got a job in a busy bar. And I'll never forget it. I went for the interview and the owner of the bar had asked me, do you do cocaine? And I said, I thought it was the strangest thing ever. I said, no. He's like, have you ever done? I was like, never, no, lying through my arse. But he's like, yeah, you just got to be careful with this this sort of scene. People can get caught up in drinking a lot and taking a lot of coke. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So, just lie to his face. So I ended up working in that bar for about a year and a half. And I think a lot of people, when they hear me talking about my story, a lot of people think it was just the promoting side of things. Oh, he was a promoter. And I don't mean to portray it at all, because it wasn't. My addiction started a few years before that, and I only kind of found out about when it started and the patterns when I went to rehab. So yeah, I suppose I'm in New York a year working in a busy bar, and it's not weekends. There's no such thing as weekends in New York. You can go out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It doesn't matter. So whatever days my shifts were, day or night, I'd work around that. And there was times, I won't lie, there was times I came into work as a barman off my head, drunk, crazy. I got suspended one time from work in a bar. So you're not allowed drink in behind. I mean, I'd say 90% of bars in New York, you're not allowed drink. I think you used to be allowed drink back in the day, but they changed it, obviously, because it's just a liability, isn't it? So I rocked up on a Sunday, one of the busiest nights, where you can make close to $1,200 just on one night alone on a Sunday. And I rocked up to work once, one night on a Sunday, off my head and drunk, and I was late about an hour, so wasn't a good start. Long story short, I got into a fight with a customer. I can't remember what happened, and I was told to get out, and I was suspended. And I think before that, this is how it started. I came into the bar late, an hour late, and the manager clearly saw I was off my head, told me to get a coffee. I got the coffee, went back into the bar, and I was pouring drink into the coffee and sipping and pretending I was drinking coffee. And then I had a fight with one of the customers. Now, it doesn't matter if he was in the wrong or I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have done it, you know what I mean? So I can't say that was the start of the problem, because there was so many nights like that. It was just ridiculous. Another night I was working in a bar. It was the day of McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. And I didn't sleep the night before, and it was one of the busiest days ever. Did not sleep the night before, and I remember I was in behind the bar, and it was a square bar in the middle. It was a square bar in the middle of the bar, so you can't hide. And I was like ducking in behind the counter because I thought I was going to get sick. So it was things like this that was, reoccurring. I do that, and I tell myself, I gotta stop doing this. But it was just always happening. I was always going to afters, lock-ins. Definitely like the crowd around the bars, the regulars, people in the industry. Not everyone, because majority of people were lovely, but just certain people who lived to earn their money and then go out and take coke and drink. And I was one of them. But the thing was, I hid it very, very well, because I was still going to the gym, and I was doing a couple of shoots here and there. Everyone thought, this guy looks after himself. And I hate to admit it, but I was such a good liar. So I found it very easy to hide. Now I'm sure there were people who knew I was taking drugs, and I was going to all these after parties and lock-ins and everything like that. But I thought I hid it pretty well, because not a lot of people had said it to me, or had approached me. Into my career as a bartender there, I suppose I was in that bar about a year and a half. And then I started going out to nightclubs, started mingling with people in, and obviously started working in nightclubs full time. And, I was still bartending in a couple of bars here and there. But I remember I was absolutely broke when I first started nightclub promoting. Like, I had absolutely nothing. So lucky enough, every time I went out, the drink was free. And for the first few months going out, I'd take coke here and there. I was never looking for it or never buying it that much, but it just got from bad to worse. And then I suppose 8 months into nightclub promoting, I got a call. I was going for castings for several reality TV shows, going back and forth to LA like 2 or 3 times, and in my element as a nightclub promoter, so going out 5-6 nights a week. I remember one time I went out like 10 nights in a row, working. You know what I mean? Some nights I was actually working. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't just I go into a place and I get pissed and do you know what I mean? It wasn't that. Like, I was working, but I was drinking. I was making sure I was drinking. There was very few nights that I'd go out and stay sober. And those nights that I was out staying sober, it was because the guys I was working with were making sure I'd stay sober. Stuff like that. And when I first started promoting, funny enough, I was probably promoting 3 or 4 months, and I remember getting kicked out of the nightclub because I was so pissed. And I always told people, I'm not a messy drunk. and I'm good to remember what happened from the night before, but I genuinely don't remember what happened. And then I think it was 6 months after, I built up a relationship with like all the doormen, the security, bottle waitresses, everything like that, people who worked in the industry. And one of the bouncers had said to me, had told me the story. He said he dragged me out and put me into a cab and made sure I got into a cab to get home. And I just don't remember that. Like, so I remember like never wanting to get like that, and that's when I started doing more coke, because it just kept me awake, kept me on point. And with more coke, absolutely mental. But yeah, you should just get drugs on tick, and then pay him at the end of the week, and not a worry in the world. And when I started getting drugs off him, it was cocaine, it was pre-rolled weed, because I couldn't roll, but it was pre-rolled weed. And then it was Adderall. So if anyone who doesn't know what Adderall is, it is known as the college drug in America. So students used to use it because it's a stimulant to stay up and cram for their exams. This is what someone told me in America, but I've seen it on a documentary before as well. So it's a stimulant, the same as coffee. It's a little pill you pop in, and you're just so focused. So I used to take that the night after. So if I get 2 or 3 hours sleep, I would take that the night after, and that would just keep me on the ball. So it was just like, I'm not here to tell war stories, but I have about 100 more of those stories that I could tell, but that's not the purpose of this live. I'm just giving you a little background story. So yeah, going forward, obviously I got Love Island USA, but I was talking to someone about this recently, and we were talking about like a psych test. So we had to do a personality test and a psych test for Love Island USA. And I remember just looking at the questions, talking about drugs, suicidal thoughts, everything like that, mental health issues, and I just lied through the whole questionnaire, lied to their faces. And obviously, for people that know and who have watched it, I obviously got to show, so there was no issues. But it's just mad, because I was struggling big time mentally, because I was partying so much, and I just had no purpose in life. I didn't know what I was doing. All I was doing was drinking and going out. That's all I was doing. And yeah, sure, I was making a bit of money, but it was just a vicious cycle. So for whatever reason, I banked so hard on Love Island for changing my life. Looking back at it now, it was so stupid. I didn't know what to make of it. And obviously that didn't go as well as I hoped. I was only in there 7-8 nights. And so when I came out, it was just a big like, what am I doing now? So post Love Island, I went 10 times harder than what I was doing before. I remember I went to Toronto for a media. Listen to this. So I went to Toronto a week after I got off Love Island, and I went to Toronto to do some radio shows and television shows, and I did the After Sun. And I was there. I was put up in a hotel, flown over there, put up in a hotel, and I was there for a night, and I had some friends out in the industry. So I went out that night, and I didn't sleep. I remember the guy who took me out. The guy who took me out, I think he was the owner of the club. He owned the clubs, and I was asking him for coke, and he just said to my face, no. And I remember I left his table and went out and got coke off someone else, and I went to an after party. Just shit like this, like, it was mental. Like, I would do anything just to get high. I'd do because the drink at that stage, it wasn't enough. My tolerance was just through the roof. It was just absolutely insane. And so that was post Love Island. So at that stage, I went to Vegas for a week and just like went to Tulum. All these trips. It was just partying. It wasn't going to see the place. It was going over to party, not sleep, make sure I had a contact there. It was all this sort of stuff. So that was, August 2019. And that's when things started getting really, really bad. Mentally, physically, I was dropping weight. It was becoming apparent. And it was just becoming so obvious that something was going on. Because obviously some of my friends knew I had issues. I was getting, there was one night where a friend had to pull me in from a windowsill, and it was bad. I don't want to get into too much details because it's like thing, but that's how bad it got, you know, suicidal thoughts, one or two attempts, and it just brought me to my knees, and it was just such a bad situation. I was in such a bad place, and you know, it got even worse than that. You know, I couldn't leave my apartment there for months. That was, so this is 4 months post Love Island, and I'm still using. So I'm going in and out of meetings at this stage. You know, a lot of my friends know the story, what's happening. I went pre-Love Island, I went into the villa at 86 kg, and then fast forward 3 months, I think I was down to 66 kg. So it was ridiculous. Down 20 kg, which is, I don't know what that is in pounds, maybe 40 pounds, something like that. It's a lot, but you know, I was barely leaving my apartment. So I quit promoting. I didn't have a choice, really. I wasn't allowed to go out. I wasn't allowed to be in that scene anymore. My friends just told me, you can't do this. So I started going into meetings. I was looking into going into I forget what they call it. It's like an in-house program. So it's a rehab, but you don't actually have to live in there. You can just go in and out. And I couldn't afford it, or something like that, or my insurance or something. So, but last option was going home. I was like, no way. I've set everything up here. I want to live in New York. This is my home now. I was there like 3.5 years, just a little over. And so can I ask some questions here? Yeah, so going in and out of meetings, I was going to get a sponsor. I couldn't say sober. I could not say sober. I think I got to 13 days. I just have that number in my head. 13, 14, 15 days. And I used that night, didn't sleep. I remember going to a meeting, bawling my eyes out. This guy who wanted to become my sponsor, someone had said, oh, you should ask him to be your sponsor, was bringing me out to lunch and breakfast and making sure I was doing these things to keep me on track. And I just stopped texting him. I stopped texting him because I couldn't. Every time I woke up, I couldn't stop thinking about cocaine. And at this stage, I wasn't even spending money on drink. It was just cocaine and Adderall and weed. So I was getting high at home, sober. So I'd wake up, I'd try do my things, try to keep busy, get out of the apartment if I could. And it was bad. It was such a vicious cycle. I remember my roommate at the time was away a lot, so it was just easy. It was easy. I knew when he was going away. I knew when to get my drugs, get my fix. And yeah, I remember. And so one time he came back and he knew what was going on, and he asked me to come out for a run with him. And lads, I'm a personal trainer now. This is what I do. I couldn't run 5k. I don't know. I think it was both mentally and physically. I could not run 5k. I think I ran a k or two and I just stopped. And where I lived in New York was by the water. It was absolutely beautiful. So there was no excuses. But I could not run 5k. I just didn't just. Blabbing on here. I'm just I'm talking for 20 minutes about all these stories, but fast forward a few months. Okay, I'm still doing my thing, still relapsing. I eventually called home, told my mother what was going on. They had an inkling, and this was coming up around Christmas time, and at this stage I'm living in a $2,000 a month apartment. I have no money at this stage. I'm absolutely broke, and I'm on the phone, telling my mother what's going on, telling her I'm going to take my life, stuff like this. And I think it was a few days later, it was actually my birthday's New Year's Day. It was New Year's Eve, and I walked into my brother's bar, and my other brother, Liam, was there. And I knew there and then, I was like, oh, okay, this is it, I'm going home. So within, space of a few months, a few days, I was living in New York City, and then I was back in Ireland. So I got back to Ireland January 6th. And do you know what? I remember getting on the plane and landing, and I just felt like such a weight was lifting off my shoulders, because I knew if I stayed in New York, it was going to get worse. And honestly, I'm not even making this up. I don't think I'd be alive today if that was the case. So I'm very, very grateful, for everyone who's helped me, but most more importantly, yeah, my brother Liam that came over that day, and my family of course as well, and my friends as well. I know I keep saying that, but do you know what? If it wasn't for them, I would not be here. So that is 2000. We're at 2000 January 2020. So at this stage I'm back home. I'm obviously not drinking. Funny, not funny enough, but the last night in New York, I actually went out. My brothers were there, but I was like, look, just give me one more night. This is it. I just want to go out with my friends one more time. And I drank, yes. Did I use? Yes. Ridiculous. But I suppose I was thinking, okay, I need to get this out of my system one more time. So it was just insane. I went out the night before. I was going back to go into rehab. It was just stupid. But so at this stage, my parents, I was living back home with my parents and my sister, and we were looking for rehabs around Ireland. And fortunately enough, I was still in touch with the psychologist with CBS in Love Island. And at this stage, I actually rang Scott. So for those of you that don't know, me and Scott met in New York, and we were in touch about Love Island and stuff like that. So we kept in touch, but I remember ringing him when I got home and telling him the story. He didn't know what was happening, but I'd asked him, for some advice, blah, blah, blah. And he'd helped me out with the process with rehab and with CBS and everything like that, financially and stuff. So it was great. So we eventually found a rehab, and it was 15 minutes from where I was from. So I was ecstatic with that, because I knew, it was going to be a long process, but I knew I was close to home. So it was February. End of February, I ended up going into rehab at a place called Bushy Park in Ennis, just outside Ennis, where I'm from. And I was there for 4 weeks. And I tell you, it was the longest 4 weeks of my life. It was very, very hard. I thought because I stopped using that, okay, this is it, I'm just going to have to stop using and stop going out. It wasn't the case. It was much deeper than that. And, there was reasons for everything that I was doing throughout the years. It wasn't just, I used to always tell people, I have addictive personality. And it just wasn't the case. And sometimes I still use that excuse, but there was much more to it. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They don't actually find out why they were doing this. Do you get me? I think a lot of people go, oh, well, it's the environment I'm in, and it's because I'm with her, or I'm with him, and they blame it on everything else. Whereas in fact, you actually have to work out what's going on in here and in, up here. And that's what I was afraid of. I felt like, okay, my ego was too high. But when I went into rehab, I suppose I just had to. No one cared who I was. And it was great. Do you know what? It was actually great. I thought my problems were bad until I actually went into a house full of absolute strangers with addictions. And I feel like I shouldn't talk too much about rehab, because it is, I forget the word. We're not supposed to. But learned so much about myself. I had to dig deep and sort shit out with, myself, my family, my friends, past relationships, everything like that. And I came out, obviously 4 weeks later, and it was it was a lot of writing, a lot of soul searching, a lot of crying. It was ridiculous, but it was worth it. So post rehab, I get home, I think this is great. Oh my God, I feel like a new person. I'm going to help everyone. I remember my go back into rehab for meetings. Your parents come in, and my parents, my sister came in because they were the only ones who were living back home. And my sister was laughing to one of the counselors. She's like, he thinks he's going to help people, or he wants to help people, whereas he needs to help himself. So I was getting so far ahead of myself. I was like, I'm gonna help so many people, help people with addiction, help people my age and younger kids, and saying all this stuff. And so I was going way too fast. I was just excited because I really wanted to do this, and it was I was just getting way too excited. So it's all because a part of sobriety, it's slow and steady. Take each day as they come and stay in the moment. It's hard, but When I came out of rehab, I was writing, I was journaling, I was meditating. I learned like how to meditate in rehab and stuff like that. And but I thought it was all going to happen. Like there's certain milestones in sobriety. So there's like 30 days, 60 days, 3 months, 6 months. I think that's right. And then you have your 9 months and 1 year, and then so on and so forth. So I remember like 30 days is the big day. I was like, oh, this is great. And then it hit 3 months and be like, oh, this is 3 months. Like I haven't done 3 months in forever. And but like I felt good. But COVID actually just started. I remember being in rehab and watching TV and hearing about this COVID, and I was just like, what the hell is this? Got out of rehab and everything was locked down. So that didn't help. But I suppose I was kind of like trying to think of a positive. I was like, oh, this is good. It'll actually give me more time to work on me, and there won't be any distractions. There won't be any temptations. And it was good for a while, but it was just so hard to build up a routine. And I was doing good. I was going to my meetings. I didn't have a sponsor, but I had this guy who was like my savior. Like came out to the house. At the time I was smoking cigarettes. It was just like a part of rehab. You smoke a few cigarettes. You talk about your feelings, and it was all good, man. It was all good, but I knew, like, I'd always say, I was like, oh, this is it. I'm done. I was looking way too far into the future rather than just focusing on that day alone. And my demons were coming back. I was just like, I was so upset because I was like, I've gone through all this. I've came home. I've gone into rehab, and I feel like I'm back to square one again. I was just like, I stopped doing meetings. I just like, this isn't working for me. I stopped reaching out to the people who were actually helping me. And it was bad. Like, it was bad. I felt like for those few weeks at this stage, I suppose I'm about 4 months, and those thoughts started creeping back in, and wanted to take my own life, and just not wanting to exist, and I just wanted to be over with, and sick jersey, yeah, and I suppose I kept going. I went back into the meetings, but it just wasn't the same. So I was at 5.5 months sober, and I hadn't done that in a long, long time, probably since I started drinking at, the age of 16, 17. And then there was one day I got into my car and I just drove, and I didn't know where I was going. It's hard to explain. I can't say I wanted to take my life, but it was it was in my head. I just didn't know how to do it. And there was obviously a voice in my head telling me to, talk to someone, to reach out to someone. But I ended up going to the shop, and I ended up picking up a big bottle of vodka. And it was summertime at this stage. It was May or June. And I drank the whole... For anyone back home, you get these small naggins again. It doesn't matter how much I drank, but I drank almost a litre of vodka. And... for someone who hadn't drank in 5.5 months, it was quite bad. And, I remember my parents coming out, and, they saw me with the drink and tried to stop me, and it wasn't, I wasn't having it. I just said, leave, just leave me drink, leave me alone, leave me do my thing. And I suppose a couple hours later, they called one of my best friends, Evan, to come out and help me. And at this stage, I don't actually remember a whole lot that was happening, or that whole lot that happened, but I remember waking up in an ambulance, and obviously my parents, my sister told me that I had an anxiety attack, a panic attack or something. But funny enough, I remember being in the ambulance, and a fellow who I went to school with was driving the ambulance, driving me to the hospital. Very strange. I just have him in my head, and Mikey was his name, and was just so good to me. So I do remember bits of it, but I remember waking up in the hospital, and there's me, after going into rehab and getting 5.5 months sober. I was in the hospital with a mental health doctor, trying to figure out what was the next step, and I just wanted to get home at that stage. I felt like the worst. Do you know what? I felt so bad in myself, but I actually felt just so bad for my parents and my sister who had to witness that. And so it was bad. And do you know what? I haven't told that story to a lot of people. A lot of people think I went to rehab and got sober and that was it, but in fact I actually relapsed. and it wasn't my first relapse. I relapsed quite a lot. And but you know what? It was something that I learned about recovery is relapses do happen, and sometimes they can go bad, and sometimes they can go on the right. They can steer you onto the right path, and for me, that's kind of what it is. So I relapsed, and you would have thought, okay, that's it. So I actually continued to drink. So I had a word with my parents. I said, look, I'm going to drink. I'm not going to use. And that went on for about 4 months. And I used a couple of times that summer. And it was a waste of time. Didn't get anything out of it. And it kind of led me up until my last week of drinking was with my 2 best friends. We rented an RV. So it was just a week gone last year. We rented an RV and went to Donegal, drove up to west coast of Ireland all the way up to the north. These are 2 of my best friends who I've grown up with. I told the guys, it's like, this is my last week drinking. And one of the guys doesn't drink, and the other guy I hadn't drank with in years. And, they're 2 of my best friends, so I felt like this is the last week I'm going to do it with them. And you know what? It was one of the best weeks I've ever had, like ever. Just drinking, swimming, surfing, and just spending time together. And you know what? It was absolutely savage. But I told him, I was like, this is it. My last night drinking was in Doolin, which is actually a place where I was living there before I moved here. And that was it. So it was 26th of September 2020, and I just decided that was it. No more for me. And what a week. I'll be honest, it was actually one of the best weeks ever. And that brings me up to September 27th, 2020, which was the first day I decided. I was like, do you want, this is it. And my dad's birthday, ironically enough. And so within that year, guys, I felt like I've grown so much as a person. I found what I want to do in life, and that's actually help people. So maybe I was right when I was talking to the counsellor. And I always had a passion for fitness. I grew up playing rugby, playing all different sports as well. And even during my using and my drinking and my partying, I was still going to the gym. There might have been a few weeks where I would stop going to the gym, but I was always in the gym doing my thing. I've talked for at least a half an hour there. If you have any questions, get them in. So the last year I've obviously been sober, guys. So any questions on sobriety or anything like that, shoot them down here. I'm just scooting back over some questions here. Denise, what a present to gift your dad and yourself. Good on, Cormac. Thank you very much, Denise. Appreciate that. Where am I now? I'm in Manchester. So I moved to Manchester about 4 months ago. It's been great, man. So I moved over here. Obviously Scott was here, and Food for Thoughts team. So I started doing bits with them, and now I'm doing personal training in Manchester, and absolutely love it. So any questions? Do you know what I'm doing? I'm just scooting back through some messages. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's messages coming through. So, do you know what? I'll talk about what has sobriety given me. Sobriety has definitely given me a new lease of life, and has helped me found what I'm actually passionate about. It's funny because when I was drinking, when I was using, there's such big distractions that every time I thought about what I wanted to do, that led me down a different path, and that's all I really cared about. So when you're sober, you have so much time to think and plan and do these things, whereas for me, when I was drinking and thinking, it was just so much of a distraction, and it was it was affecting me mentally and physically as well. I keep saying as well. how do you cope in here's a go. Okay, how do you cope in social situations where others are drinking around you? Do you just say I'm not drinking? That's a good question. And so I did a Q&A the other day, and I lost a lot of questions, but I know this one came up quite often. So for me, right, I never needed drinking drugs to go out and socialize. I only did it because I really wanted it. I wanted to escape how I was feeling, if that makes sense. But do I find it hard to socialise? Because I have gone out. I've gone out a few nights since I moved to Manchester. Not so much back home. And yeah, it's quite tough. I'm not going to say, it's easy. I think anyone says that it is easy, they're either lying to you or they've been doing it for quite some time. I would still say I'm early in recovery. Only just a year. I've heard of people relapsing after 2 years, 3 years, and even 7 years. I remember there was a fella in a meeting, and I couldn't get over it. The guy was off drink 7 years, and he was an older guy, like 48, maybe 50. And I was just like, wow, like imagine relapsing after 7 years. So, and I thought I was bad after 5.5 months. But going back to your question, yeah, I say I'm not drinking. So do you know what? When I say that, some people might ask why, and I just say it straight up because I think some people will actually appreciate your honesty, and you know, and a lot of people do that with mine. Sorry, I'm looking at questions. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Denise. I can get into bit more detail if that for you. I just think it's good to be honest. I think a lot of people can go out without drink. If you can't, don't go out. It's as simple as that. But you know, it is very difficult going out. But it's like anything else. It's just practice, isn't it? And you know, if it comes down to that, you aren't comfortable, then you know, just don't go out. Find something else to do, because there's a lot more to do in life than just going out on weekends. So, do you feel that you got to the point of not being able to have a drink without cocaine? Yes, yeah. So there was a stage where I was saying this early on, when I was at home, like I did cocaine loads of times without drinking, or even when I was drinking, I would be doing lines before I have my first drink. So yeah, a lot of people would say that drink is the gateway to taking drugs. 100% agree with that, but it got to the stage with me there, I didn't need drink to take it. So when was the last time I used? So last time I used would have been longer than a year. So the last week before my first day of sobriety was just drinking. But I would say last time I took drugs, i.e. cocaine, was about maybe 15, 16 months ago. Something like that. Thanks, Jenna. She a tough cookie. Thank you very much. I appreciate that message. Yeah, honesty is always the best policy, isn't it? Do I do a lot of work on my mindset? Yeah, I try to do so. Meditation a couple of times a week, ideally every day. I still get a little bit. No, I'd be lying to you if I said I do. That's something I still need to work on. Funny enough, I was telling one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't feeling well, and I know when I get anxious, my back goes really tight, my neck and my back tighten up, and I just start breathing heavy, because I've had 2-3 anxiety attacks before, so I know when, not that it's coming on, but I know when I get it, when I'm getting anxious, I know when it's coming on. But what was I saying? My God, talking about anxiety. So this is my point. So I know at that time I hadn't done any meditation for about 2.5 weeks. So I know that's what brought it on. No meditating, no journaling, gratitude, stuff like that. A lot of you would see me post quotes on my stories and my journals, and I find it helps me. And obviously if it helps someone else, great, but I find it helps me. It almost holds me accountable, right? So when I post those stories, They're not supposed to be like, oh, I meditate. It's not that. It's more like, okay, I'm putting it out to the world that I meditate, so it's going to keep me accountable. When am I home next, Bevan? Do you know what? Haven't a clue. Christmas time, I'd say. Massage is the only way to go. Yeah, sometimes. Guys, I'm just going to scoot back on some of these questions because I feel like I've missed some. Yeah, home is always the best safe place and support. Thanks, Morgan. Yes, some Love Island fans coming through. Hello. You didn't involve any relationship. Yeah, so do you know what? This is a good point. So one of the girls says, while you're helping yourself recover, you didn't involve any relationships yet unless you're mentally and spiritually prepared. You can do until then. That's actually a good point. So through the years, right, I had several girlfriends mainly in New York, and it was like I was not fit to be in a relationship. And I suppose I was young, and I suppose you kind of go through these phases and you go through different relationships. But I was such a bad person in relationships. Like, looking back at it now, I was so bad. I thought I was a good guy. And yeah, sure, I might have said hello and thank you and you're welcome, and very like I was a manly person, but deep down I was bad. Like, looking back at some of the stuff I did in past relationships just wasn't good, and it wasn't who I wanted to be. But again, it was down to my addiction. I know for a fact that was the addictive Cormac. It wasn't actually who I am. So yeah, that's a good point. So I'm single right now, and I think I'm going to be single for another couple of years because I feel like I have so much to work on for me, mentally, physically, career wise, everything like that. And for me, not saying this for anyone else, for me, being in a relationship is a distraction right now because I feel like I wouldn't be able to give 100% into that. So that's a good point. That's just to elaborate on that question. So yeah, we still have 100 people here. Guys, get some questions in. I'm going to go for another few minutes. Go on, Zebo. Zeebs. I saw you try the weekend, my man. Congrats. Okay. Okay. Ian, what's going on, my man? So guys, Sober Living Fitness, he's actually almost a year sober as well. I've never met this guy, but we know each other through Food for Thoughts, and we're right there, man. We're neck and neck. Not that it matters. It doesn't matter who's longer sober. The whole thing here is being the best version of yourself. So, congrats to you, my man. But to your question, do you still attend meetings? I don't. I'm not against them at all. I think they're great. I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me, and I've passed them on to a guy who was helping me through meetings as well. So they want to get involved in meetings, and I've passed them on to recommended this guy to get him in there. But for me, no, I just feel I can do this. I'm not doing it by myself. I have my family and friends who are there with me, have the support. Unfortunately enough, I actually have a good support system here in Manchester. All the people that I've met here have been absolutely amazing. That's why I love it here so much. I find the people in Manchester are just like next level, man. Just like really, really, really good people. Yeah, but look, if anyone is struggling, I think going into a meeting is good because you're going to meet people who are on the same journey as you, right? And everyone's been there. Everyone has a day one, so it doesn't matter if someone's 9 years sober, 6 years sober, 2 weeks sober. They've all started in the same place. They've all been through the same thing or similar stories. So if you are looking to, I don't know, give up drink or just become a better version of you, you don't all have to go to rehab. Like, I had to, but meetings are a good way to start. Okay, will you be able to save this video? Yeah, I might do. I wasn't planning on. I can save the video. I wasn't planning on posting this, but Grace, how do you support a sibling with addiction? So that's a tough one. I've never had a sibling or I suppose I've had a few friends with addictions, but I suppose, like, look, I'm not a professional, but from my experience, is get them to go see a counsellor, get them into a meeting, something like that. You can't do it yourself. Like, that's 100%. You cannot do it yourself. You need support systems, whether it's from your family, friends. But I would make sure that he's going to a meeting, or going to a counsellor or something like that. Hope that answers your question. Does it all feel like it's starting to make sense now? Like you had to go to everything you did to really discover the true you. Yeah, that's a great question. There's a quote, and I'm going to butcher this or I won't remember it. It goes like, the only way to find your true purpose in life is for life to bring you onto your knees so you can get back up again. It's something like that. I've absolutely butchered that now. But basically what it means is, for some people, and not everyone, you need to be brought down to your knees in order to find yourself and move on and become a better version of yourself. That's basically what it means. So yeah, life is starting to make sense now. As again, I talked about it earlier, about having a purpose in life, and I feel like I've found my purpose in life and I have a direction. And I think that's so important in life, guys. No matter what age you are, no matter if you have kids, doesn't matter. You have to have a purpose in life and find your reason why you're doing these things. And for me, that's why I felt like I had to move over to Manchester. To be not to be surrounded, but I just felt like it was the right step for my career. I was lucky enough, Scott was here and a few other guys were here, and he's been tremendous help and it's been great. So being around like-minded people, some people with similar stories, so I felt it was the right move to come here. Sammy's 480 days sober, best decision I've ever made. Well done. Thank you very much, Sammy. See what I mean, guys? It's this is why I'm doing it live, is to get people coming in here, celebrating their wins and small wins, even if it's 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. So Nicola, I touched on this. So how do you support someone going through the same thing? And this is something I actually get asked quite a lot on Instagram as well. And I always say first thing, I'm not a professional. I only speak from my experience and what I did. But I've professional help and it's hard for someone as well, because I remember when my friends were telling me you need to get help, I was just like, fuck off, not hope of it. I thought it was the most insulting thing ever. Someone called me a cokehead there one time, and I was fuming, absolutely fuming, even though I knew I was, but it was just hard for me to hear. Nicola Chalmers. It's over 2.5 years. Peer pressure was a struggle at the start. Is this something to struggle with? Good question. Peer pressure is, do you know what? It definitely wasn't. I think if you're feeling pressured into doing something, I would say you're not around the right people. I was fortunate enough that I had the right people around me. I've kind of, when I relapsed and was drinking with other people, it was kind of through like friends. They weren't really close friends. They were just like guys who I knew, and I just went to parties and that was it. But you shouldn't feel peer pressure. But at the start, obviously, it's hard because sometimes people might go sober and they might be staying with the same people who are still using and that. So, do you feel like you've replaced addiction with fitness and finding a good balance with fitness, meditation, journaling, etc.? What's your go-to if you feel something creeping up on you? Great question. Yeah, most definitely. So, funny enough, when I was in rehab, I was running, right? There was a track around, it was about 1 kilometre. So I had my protein, my mother brought me a tub of protein in. And I remember the person, the main counsellor, she brought me in for a meeting. I was like, what's going on here? She was like, what is this? And mind you, there's biscuits and sweets and everything in the cupboard, but they were giving out to me about bringing in a tub of protein. And I was like, look, I'm 66 kg. I'm not this skinny ever. I need to put back on weight. So I was eating as much as I could. But one of the counsellors that pulled me up, she's like, Jesus, she's proper Irish. She's like, you should be getting into fitness now after this. And I was like, go away out of it. Someone tell me what to do. I was like, go away. I just wanted to like get well, get better first before I even thought about what I was going to do. Because eventually when I started thinking, my mother was like, oh, you got to start thinking about what do you want to do now. It was so much. I was just like, wow, this is a lot. Like, and I know I was 27 at the time, and it was time to grow up and, find a job. But at the time, it was just like, wow, I just got out of rehab here. It was a lot. But I've definitely replaced my addiction, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm addicted to fitness, meditation, journaling. I'm not addicted to it. I enjoy working out because I know it's good for my head. I know it's good for my for my physical health, my mental health. There's so many benefits from training. It's meditation as well for your headspace. This is Scott back here now. All right, guys. 4 more minutes. We're nearly at an hour here. Just going back through. All right. Anyone any questions, guys? No. Last few minutes. Great answer. Thank you very much. Do I avoid certain social events now? No, not really. Like, do I go out weekends? No. I'm going out for dinner later, if that counts. But I prefer not to. It's just like putting yourself in those situations, right? About drinking. Do you know what I mean? And, social events are normally in evening time, night time. I like going to bed early these days. I'm exhausted by like 9 p.m. I was up at 5 a.m. this morning. Whereas 2 years ago I was up at 5 a.m. but I hadn't slept. Do you know what I mean? Do you miss New York at all? Do I miss New York? Yeah, I miss New York. I wish I'd done it better, if that makes sense. I have some great experiences, don't get me wrong, like as in I was in a bad place in New York, but I had some great times. I have some like stories and memories that like I'll remember forever. But yeah, I do miss New York. I don't think about it that much, to be honest with you. Karen, do you realise how amazing you are every day? I'm only kidding. Would you again, Charlie? I just answered that there. I would not. Maybe stateside. You want? There's so many states in New York or in America. So for anyone that doesn't know, I actually have a American passport. Gemma, do you have a Q motto for life now? A quote? Yes, I do. So it's, oh my God, I forget. It's in my journal here now. Do you want? I have it on my screens over here, guys. Gemma, I'll message you my quote, Gemma. I have it on my screensaver here, which is just ridiculous because if I go off this a sec, I'll find it. Okay, so it's learn to be grateful for the life you have, even though you're working towards the life you want. That's my new one. But I do have another one. It's learn from the past. Just learn from the past, look to the future, but live in the present. There you go. 2 quotes. But yo! Fucking Soraya, it's over, babe. Jim, I hope that answers your questions. Of the man, okay. How much do it then? Just New York, lived there for a while. Did you hear that? Yeah. Alright guys, 7 o'clock. I gotta go, I'm absolutely exhausted. I gotta shower and go out for dinner there in a little bit. Yes, glad you love the quotes. I have a lot more of them, but it'll be great. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight, for all your questions. Really appreciate it, guys. I don't go live at all, but I feel like it's important to, celebrate this milestone with you guys. You've been on my journey over the last few years, and to spread awareness, I suppose, around addiction and stuff like that, and tell you my experience as well. I can't tell you I know everything about addiction. I don't. I just know what I gone through and how I felt and everything like that. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit wiser over the last few years. And if that can help someone, great. If not, then that's fine as well. At least you learned a little bit on addiction. So yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate this. I don't know why I did that. Enjoy the rest of your night. And Natalie Sosa, what's going on? Hope you're well. And we'll talk to you soon, guys. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week. Much love. I was going to do a kiss, but see you later, guys.